Rapid advancements in forensic science and crime scene investigation techniques have made it easier than ever for investigators to capture criminals and ensure that victims are given the justice they deserve. There are cases out there that are so strange and bizarre that even forensic science can't solve them. Number 5. 19-year-old Sir Xavier Brooks found himself at the wrong place at the wrong time on February 12, 2011. Brooks had found himself in the middle of an altercation outside of the Leonardo da Vinci Code nightclub located in Chandler, Arizona. This altercation went south very quickly, with Brooks ending up deceased within a matter of minutes. There were plenty of witnesses to the crime, and the police believed they had an open and shut investigation. It wasn't until they examined the forensic evidence that they realized that this case was going to be anything but straightforward. The police quickly named 19-year-old Orlando Nembhard as their main suspect, after witnesses came forward and gave a detailed description of the attacker. While building their case against Orlando, they realized something. Orlando was an identical twin, and the witness reports began conflicting with each other. One detective told ABC News, quote, "Conflicting descriptions were initially given by witnesses, with some witnesses describing the defendant as the perpetrator, and others described his twin brother as the perpetrator." The case of Sir Xavier Brooks quickly spiraled into one of Arizona's most complex unsolved mysteries. Police were unable to obtain DNA or seize the weapon used in the attack, complicating matters further. Even if police were able to recover DNA from the crime scene, this still wouldn't have resolved the case, as identical twins shared the same genetic code. Without fingerprints and matching eyewitness accounts, the case against Orlando Nembhard shattered. Orlando had initially been arrested and charged with murder, and was held on a $500,000 bond that was later dropped to $10,000. Since Orlando posted bail, there have been few updates in this case. According to Arizona prison records, his file has been inactive since 2015. Arizona authorities have made it clear they're determined to find the person responsible and bring them to justice once and for all. Brooks's father told ABC, quote, "I'm angry, very angry. Now that we're hearing this other story, that maybe you know it's another brother, or this brother, or whatever brother it is, you know one of them did it." If you have any information, you're asked to contact the Chandler Police Department on 480-782-4440. Number 4. Uruj Khan had moved from India to Chicago, Illinois in 1989 looking for a better life. Khan was a devout Muslim and dedicated his time to caring for his wife and his daughter. When Khan wasn't with his family, he was working hard at the dry cleaning business he owned to provide for his family, putting in long hours to ensure they had everything they needed. In 2012, Khan made a pilgrimage to Mecca, a trip that most Muslims make in their lifetime, and it's a trip that is considered extremely important to those who observe the faith. But in 2012, something inside Khan changed. On a whim, he decided to buy 2 lottery tickets and was astounded to learn that he had purchased the winning ticket. Khan was in line to receive $1 million, and his family were elated at the news, imagining what their new life would be like. On July 20th, 2012, the Khan family's life changed forever when they discovered that Uruj had passed away as a result of a heart attack. Investigators initially ruled that it was natural causes, as the first toxicology screening did not show the presence of alcohol or other substances in his system. The original autopsy also indicated that Khan had blocked arteries that could have contributed to a heart attack. However, his family insisted that this ruling was not correct, and after applying pressure, investigators agreed to run more comprehensive toxicology screenings. Khan's family were horrified to learn that he had a substantial amount of cyanide in his system. They were in utter disbelief that someone would want to harm him. However, the forensic evidence painted a very different picture, and their quest for justice began. On the night before his passing, Khan had eaten a lamb curry prepared for him by his wife, Shabana. Investigators quickly pointed the finger at her. However, she testified that it couldn't have been her, as both herself and her father ate the same meal. Khan's body was exhumed in 2013 to perform further testing. However, Stephen Sina, the medical examiner in charge of Khan's case, found that his body was too decomposed to be able to analyze it. Khan was not embalmed in accordance with Muslim traditions, making it difficult for more samples to be obtained. Sina stated that he was unable to figure out how the cyanide had entered Khan's body, and that his passing remains a mystery. Sina did confirm that Khan's arteries were 75% blocked, but he's been unable to explain the substantial amount of cyanide in his blood. The case remains unsolved, and Khan's brother is determined to get to the bottom of this forensic mystery. Following his passing, Khan's daughter received 1/3 of his winnings. His wife Shabana received 2/3 along with their dry cleaning business. If you have any information about Iruj's case, you're asked to contact the Chicago Police Department on 312-746-6000. Number 3. At around 7 p.m. on March 22, 1997, Judy Mae Wilson said goodbye to her 39-year-old daughter, Kathy Mabry. Kathy stepped out of her home in the small town of Isola, Mississippi, never to be seen alive again. At the time, Kathy was in a relationship with 48-year-old James Earl Gates, and their relationship was anything but stable. According to Judy, Kathy's mother, Gates was no good and was abusive towards her, alleging that he once broke Kathy's arm and took over the house, doing whatever he wanted. Judy didn't approve of the relationship, but felt powerless to do anything about it. When March 23, 1997 slowly crept around, Judy knew something was wrong. Kathy hadn't returned home, and while she battled with her own personal demons, she was always there to take care of her children, and would always phone home if she was going to be out for the night. Judy's worries worsened when Gates phoned the house, asking if she had seen or heard from Kathy. Judy had assumed that Kathy had been with Gates throughout the night, and panic set in. Kathy's family and friends went around the small town of Isola, as well as going to the neighboring town of Belzoni to see if anyone had seen her. It wasn't until later that day that they received the terrible news. A workman had discovered Kathy's body in an abandoned house in Belzoni. During the autopsy, Hayes discovered bite marks on Kathy's body and called in the help of Michael West, a dentist and forensic odontologist, who claimed to have developed a new technique called the West phenomenon. He told investigators working on Kathy's case that he could take photographs of the bite marks and make molds of a suspect's teeth to see if they matched. West obtained a dental mold from Gates and claimed that the bite marks found on Kathy's body were a match. Gates was subsequently arrested and charged in connection with the crime. Gates protested his innocence and claimed that he was not the one responsible. Thankfully, his legal counsel requested DNA testing on fingernail scrapings that were obtained from Kathy's body. The DNA analysis proved Gates had not been Kathy's attacker, and that he had been falsely accused and imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. Gates was officially cleared of all charges in 1998, but now investigators were back to square one. They now had a DNA profile of the person responsible. However, it wasn't a match to anyone in their database. 24 years have passed, and investigators are still no closer to solving the mystery. They have a wealth of forensic evidence in Kathy's case, but have been unable to find a match. If you have any information about Kathy's case, you're asked to contact the Isola Police Department on 662-962-6132. Number 2. 26-year-old Debbie Lindsley had her whole life ahead of her. Debbie was born in Bromley, just outside of London, and spent her teenage and adult years working hard to secure a good career for herself. By 1988, Debbie had moved to Edinburgh, where she had taken a job as a hotel manager, something she had worked very hard for. In March of 1988, Debbie was sent on a training course in Hertfordshire, England, by her bosses. As Hertfordshire was close to Bromley, her manager allowed her to take a few days off after the course to visit her family. The timing was perfect as Debbie's brother, Gordon, was getting married in 2 weeks and Debbie needed to be back home for her final bridesmaid dress fitting. Debbie attended her course as planned and then spent a few days with her family, cherishing every moment before she had to head back up to Edinburgh, over 424 miles away. March 23, 1988, was Debbie's last day at home before she had to travel back to work. The family said their goodbyes, and her brother, Gordon, dropped her off at the Pettswood train station. Debbie caught the 2:16 train headed for London Victoria, where she would catch a connecting train to Edinburgh. According to Debbie's father, Arthur, Debbie was never supposed to be on the 2:16 train. Arthur told newspapers, quote, "She was here 3 nights and was due to leave late in the afternoon to Edinburgh for work. But on the course she met the manager of the Sherlock Holmes Hotel in London, and she left earlier to speak to him about a job." Just before the train reached London Victoria, Debbie was attacked by an unknown person, and someone in the carriage next to Debbie reported hearing a commotion coming from her compartment. It wasn't until the train pulled into London Victoria that the conductors realized that Debbie had been attacked. The person responsible was now long gone, lost in a sea of commuters. Several witnesses came forward and gave descriptions of 2 men they saw in or near Debbie's carriage that day. The first man was described as being 40 to 50 years old, with long red hair and a mustache. It was also noted that he walked with a limp. The second man is described as stocky, around 30 years old, with white blonde hair, and he was wearing a pale jacket. The Metropolitan Police rushed to the scene and began their investigation. Amazingly, they uncovered a DNA profile from an unknown male on Debbie's body and ran it against the UK's database, which has more than 6 million entries. Unfortunately for the Metropolitan Police, no match could be established and their investigation quickly ran cold. In 1999, the Metropolitan Police created the Murder Review Group, and Debbie's case has taken high priority ever since. The UK does not currently use forensic genetic genealogy, and many people are petitioning the government to change this. If you have any information about what happened to Debbie Lindsley, you're asked to contact Susan Stansfield of the Metropolitan Police's Special Casework Investigative Team on 020-7230-4294. Alternatively, you can contact Crime Stoppers anonymously at 0800-555-111. Number 1. On March 1st, 1992, Barbara Leverton pulled into a lay-by at Bitter Creek in Sweetwater County, Wyoming, for a much-needed rest stop. Barbara hopped out of her truck cab and took a small walk along the lay-by. As she was walking, she spotted a trash bag at the bottom of the embankment. As she got closer, she realized it wasn't a trash bag but the body of a female, lying face down in the snow. Barbara jumped into her cab and used her CB radio to call for help, and asked her fellow truckers to contact 911. Thankfully, truckers heard her message, and the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office arrived at the scene. The Sheriff's Office believed that the woman's body had been dropped out of a truck and had rolled down to the bottom of the embankment. The coroner determined that the body belonged to a white and Hispanic female, between the ages of 24 and 32, with dark brown or black hair and dark brown or black eyes. The coroner also noted that the woman had a vertical C-section scar on her abdomen, a 1-inch scar on her left calf, and a tattoo of a rose on her right breast. Investigators appealed to the public for any information as to who the woman they've dubbed Bitter Creek Betty could be. One tip came in that identified the possible artist of the tattoo. After some investigation, the sheriff's office found out that the tattoo had been done at a tattoo shop near the Triple T truck stop in Tucson, Arizona. The artist told investigators that he remembered tattooing the woman, but he didn't know her name. Under hypnosis, he was able to recall that the woman was a hitchhiker and spoke without an accent. He also told investigators that Bitter Creek Betty had worn a brown peasant dress with yellow flowers when she came into the shop. Despite all of this information, the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office is still no closer to discovering who Bitter Creek Betty is. There was renewed hope in Betty's case in 2014, when DNA was collected from the crime scene and was analyzed and produced a match, but it wasn't the kind of match you'd expect. The DNA didn't yield a name, but instead it confirmed a match to another unidentified woman on April 13, 1992 in Sheridan County, Wyoming. The DNA found on Bitter Creek Betty matched the DNA found on a woman only known as the Sheridan County Jane Doe, leading investigators to believe that this was the work of a serial killer. The Sheridan County Jane Doe is described as a white female between the ages of 18 and 21 and is 5'5" to 5'6", 110 to 115 pounds, with brown shoulder-length hair. She was found wearing a light blue and white check midriff shirt with pearl and jeweled buttons down the middle, size 5'6" blue jeans, and pink underwear. Much like Bitter Creek Betty, the Sheridan County Jane Doe has remained unidentified for almost 3 decades. In 2020, Clark Perry Baldwin was arrested for the murders of Bitter Creek Betty, the Sheridan County Jane Doe, and Pamela Rose McCall. The case against Baldwin is ongoing, and he's currently being held on a bond of $1 million. While we now know the identity of the person responsible, we still don't know the identities of the Jane Does. Advances in forensic science have allowed us to capture their killer, but we're still left without knowing their true identities. If you have any information about Bitter Creek Betty, you're asked to contact Detective Michelle Hall of the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office at 307-352-6720, quoting case number 920763. If you have any information about the Sheridan County Jane Doe, you're asked to contact the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office at 307-777-7181, quoting case number 19920119. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.